that is why Patanjali is considered more of a scientist than a sage, because he put down words in the most practical, approachable ki ye kar lo. Just do this. Okay, what is yoga? This is yoga. That's it. One
He
line.
was the YouTuber back then. The
He
infotainment
was
YouTuber.
the OG content creator.
OG content creator.
It's like boiling down the I mean, there are many like that. Panini, Patanjali, Katyayana, there are Sushruta, Charaka, the 50 sounds of Sanskrit alphabet, 16 vowels and 34 consonants from A to Ksha.
Wow.
And all of them have these geological, presence of different Shaktipitas. And because they are all aspects of the Divine Mother, the goddess, each letter of Sanskrit alphabet is called as a Matrika. Mata being the goddess, the mother, Shakti. Matrika, an aspect of the mother.
We've done a huge number of podcasts on Hinduism, Indian history, Indian culture, but we've never really done an all-out podcast on Sanskrit. One of my mentors, Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai, had told me that the moment you start learning Sanskrit, there are faculties of your brain that get unlocked. That's the nature of ancient languages. Spoke about everything from Indian history to the power of mantras, to the power of words in this one. It's a fascinating, mind-bending conversation with someone who has a huge amount of knowledge. Today's guest is Udaya Shreyas. He runs a channel called the Sanskrit channel on YouTube, where he promotes the idea of relearning Sanskrit. And after speaking to him, I've decided that at some point in life, I'm definitely going to dive much deeper into actually learning and speaking Sanskrit again. We also highlighted meditation and prayer as a huge part of this podcast. I urge you to listen to this from an open perspective. If you want to begin your meditation journey, if you are not sure where you should be starting, we've built a meditation app. It's called Level Supermind. We've also created a lot of regional language meditation. So whether you speak Bengali, Punjabi, Tamil, Telugu, Gujarati, we have you covered on Level Supermind. Of course, there's a ton of English meditations as well. Make sure you check it out. And for more episodes like this, make sure you follow TRS on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world, because we're a Spotify exclusive. So without further ado, this is a deep dive into the world of Sanskrit. This conversation will open up your mind and lead you to your next level of evolution. Enjoy this episode with Udaya Shreyas. Mr. Udaya Shreyas,
Namaskaram.
my engineer turned YouTuber turned spiritual brother. How are you?
I'm very, very, very well. Thank you so much. It's lovely to be in this room. I've seen this in so many videos. I consume a lot of your content. And more so preparing for this coming here. But it's very lovely to be here. The whole vibe, the ambience is...
So, the reason I got curious about podcasting with you was because I watched a movie called Arrival, which was about aliens.
Yes.
The first thing that people think aliens do on Earth is attack humans or probably give us some magical device. In that movie, they showed a very realistic depiction of aliens. But the first thing that the aliens did was try understanding our language. And the first thing humans did was try understanding the aliens' language. And spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, they realized that the aliens' language is circular. As in, it means the same thing forwards and backwards. And then that got me thinking, Sanskrit is the same. Is that true?
Forwards and backwards is
Like
same?
it's a circular language that even if you read it backwards, it's the same. At least, or this is an urban myth.
Maybe what you're referring to is this kavya. There is one composition which was done by, it's named Raghava Yadaviyam.
Okay.
Which if you read it from left to right, you get the story of Lord Rama, and if you read from right to left, you read the syllables backwards, you get the story of Krishna.
What?
Yes, it's insane. The kind of feats that people have done, Sanskrit composers have done, is enormous.
Dude, you've started a YouTube channel called the Sanskrit channel. You've had to have been very passionate about the language.
Yes.
I intend on learning Sanskrit at some point in my life, maybe when I'm slightly older. I feel my time hasn't come yet. That's just a personal feeling.
Can I interject here?
Sure.
You already know Sanskrit.
Okay.
Your name is in Sanskrit. Ranveer is a Sanskrit name, right? Can I take Sanchit as a Sanskrit name? Shrutesh is a Sanskrit name. Udaya is a Sanskrit name. Almost nowadays people want more and more unique names, but they are ending up naming their children in Sanskrit. Like you said, you want to learn Sanskrit at some point in life. No, Kesha, the word Kesha. Nayana, Netra, Karna, Hasta, Pada, Mukha, Akasha, Jala. There are almost 80%, this, don't quote me on the figure, but a large chunk of most Indian languages derive their vocabulary from Sanskrit because of the nature of what the language is. We'll come back to the first question.
Sure.
Later. But what I wanted to say is, it's not some language where you have to start from scratch on your learning process. You already know a lot of it.
Okay. Man, I'll tell you what. When I began creating content in Hindi, first we were creating content in English. When I switched to Hindi, I noticed after creating content, see, I've been speaking it all my life, but speaking in front of camera really makes you think of the language. The Hindi language is way more emotional as a language as compared to English.
True.
And I'm sure that that's the case with Marathi, Punjabi, Tamil, Telugu. Any Indian language is more emotional because it's a representation of the people who are more emotional in general. Now, making content in Hindi kind of made me more emotionally savvy, maybe. Maybe I would like to believe it's increased my EQ to a certain degree. Because there's certain words in Hindi which you can't express in English just using one word. You have to express the same word using a sentence. For example, how do you explain mamta, a motherly feeling in English? How do you explain parampara, like in English?
Correct.
Now, similarly, I think Sanskrit is one level deeper, where there is spiritual meaning behind words.
Yes.
Am I right in saying that? And when you actually learn Sanskrit, what does it do to you as a person on an individual level? Because there's a lot of people who are waking up to the culture of our country again, especially our age, around our age, who want to dive into Sanskrit. I want you to give them a preview of what it will do to their minds.
Wow.
Because I also believe that all the shlokas, the mantras, the stotrams, the stotrams,
lovely.
All of these are in Sanskrit.
Yes.
Now imagine you now understand what each of those mean.
Yes.
How much emotion will that add to your heart when you're chanting those? And I would also like to interject here and say that one of the first things they teach you about mantra jap is that if you understand the meaning, if you say it with emotions, it becomes 100 times more powerful.
Yeah.
Now go on.
Sure. What can it do to people? One thing why I do this is because there's so much to relish in it. It's from that emotion comes that enormous amount of joy. It's insanely rewarding to learn it from the get-go. Like you said, what is one shloka that you know, for example? Maybe Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya, most people know. Saraswati Namastubhyam, probably some people know.
Yeah.
Nainam Chindante Shastrani, most of the Bhagavad Gita shlokas people know. And when you see that these esoteric sounding verses are conversations between people, it's so heartfelt. It's like you said, it's all emotional, that it's coming from a deep seated curiosity in a human being.
And maybe love.
It provides. Sanskrit just provides. If I can compare it with the blood groups, I don't know. It's, one people say English is, so malleable because it can borrow words from any language and make it a part of its vocabulary. But Sanskrit is not like that. It is so rigid in its structure that it doesn't, take words into itself. It's the way it is millions of millennia ago. It's the same way right now. Because it's so complete. What Sanskrit can do is provide words to other languages. It's so loving that in that sense. Maybe I see that in this context, that it can fulfill you in many, many, many extremely deep ways, because it's a very spiritually rooted language. And what can these shlokas do? The words have a lot of profoundness in them, a lot of power to them. That you said, the sounds, the way that those sounds themselves are very potent. I made this video. It's a small experiment. We can try this out.
Sure.
You know the Devanagari alphabet.
Yeah.
The A, I, E to Aha and Kaka, Ganga, Cha, Cha, Ja, Jhanya. Did you already see this video? I don't know. But say this sounds after me. Just put your fingers at the pit of your throat. Maybe the viewers can also try this out. Say Ka.
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 See what is happening to your fingers. Ka.
Ka.
Ka. Kha.
Kha.
Ga.
Ga.
Gha,
Gha.
nga,
Na.
nga.
Na.
Right?
Hmm.
Ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. The next row is slightly outward from the vocal cavity. This was at the pit of the throat. Were you able to notice that all these sounds were uttered when the vocal flaps there were
You could
ka,
feel
kha,
it
ga, ga, nga.
expanding.
Yes, the reverb is there. Now the next row of consonants is one level outward in the vocal cavity. Cha.
Cha.
Where is it? Where is it? Take your hands off from the pit of the throat. Cha.
Cha.
What is striking? What two organs are striking to produce that sound? Cha. The
Cha.
tongue with the roof. Cha. Right? Cha.
Cha.
Ja. Jha. Nya. Ta, tha, da, dha, na, pa, pa, ba, bha, ma. So the last row of consonants is pa,
Pa.
pha, ba, bha, ma. That is the last row of consonants. So even the very alphabet is structured in such a way that it corresponds with the vocal cavity. Right? From kaka ga gha nga to papa bha bha ma, it was all of them were moving outward gradually. So it explores your full vocal capability. There are these claims that people who know are fluent with Sanskrit can pick up accents very easily, regional accents, without giving away where they are from. And if be it any language, world language, because it is such a full-fledged exercise of your vocal cavity. So all of this is an intellectual high. This whole trip one can go on just reading all kinds of literature. You can lose yourself in the study of the alphabet, let alone the scriptures, the stotras, the Upanishads, the Vedas, the Shastras. And my God, the variety of literature that you have at your disposal to consume, from Ayurveda to Tantra to Jyotisha to Vastu to yoga to Natya, Sangeeta, Ganita, whatever field of study you want to take, Rasayana Shastra, it's there.
Okay.
This profound literature. So all of this gives me a high. That's why I do it.
I'm going to interject here
Sure.
a little bit and kind of just pause and recap on everything we just learned. Okay, firstly, I feel that the alphabet, the way it's structured, has some sort of exercise effect on your vocal cord and your mouth, which you use to speak.
Yes.
Which is why you can pick up accents, which is why you can become better at communication with people from other cultures and your own culture, of course.
Yes.
Okay, that's one idea. Second idea is that I have come to understand from spiritual studies that words contain power. Now, these are also English words. When you keep saying, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, chances are if you say that every day, all the time, there'll be at least some effect. Maybe you won't be completely happy, but it'll have some effect on your mind. Words contain power. Similarly, I believe Sanskrit words contain power. I'm sure. That's why all the mantras are in Sanskrit. And the third thing I will definitely say is, I feel that one thing I've learned through the podcast, through talking to archaeologists and historians and even some conspiracy theorists, honestly, is that the world has been affected and re-affected by ice ages constantly. And there have only been a few cultures around the equatorial belt who have survived through the ice ages. One of which is in South America, one of which was in Egypt, one of which is in India. I feel that our culture is old because of the geography of India. Now, when a culture gets to be that old and then has lived through so much, it just understands the science of living slightly better.
Absolutely.
It is a Western
Why
narrative.
Slightly though?
Huh?
You're being conservative with your... Why slightly better?
I think when we are thinking about us being better, we're comparing ourselves to Europeans. I'm comparing ourselves to shamanism in South America, ancient Egypt culture, which I also feel were quite significant.
Sure.
We have survived now more 5,000, 6,000 years. So maybe we're slightly ahead of them. But not enough is known about those cultures right now. I'm not even comparing ourselves to modern Western culture. Because that's usually the comparison because of, our colonial rulers, etc.
Right.
But my point is, I just feel Sanskrit, yoga, Ayurveda, these Indian concepts have had more time to develop and they are benefiting all of us today.
Very true.
So that's why there are secrets kind of within the Sanskrit language that an entire generation of us have to extract. Am I right in saying that? And like, as you learned Sanskrit, what have you extracted from the culture? For example, once you actually start understanding the mantras, how does it change your mindset or your existence?
It's a shift. It's again so many ideas
Sure.
that you have covered. Definitely, I mean, all of it stems from human pursuit, right? Human longing. What do civilizations who have time to spare and who have, their survival needs taken care of, what do they want to do? They want to see if there is a higher purpose in life, if they can live better, they can experience things better, they can live more joyfully, just be more profound in their experience, expression, whatever they do. How can I, know things better? How can I feel things better? Be one with things better? How can I evolve further in my experience? And all the cultures that you have mentioned, which have lived through many, aeons of time without significant disturbances, have gotten there. There is, like, probably from your, thought and your experience and your understanding so far of what spirituality means, there is only one truth. Life is happening as one. This human individual identity is there for a brief period of time for our individual experience, and it's a great boon. It's not some kind of a curse that we have limited identities with the body and mind, but that is what enables us to have this individual experience that I am doing this. But the core fundamental truth of existence is everything is happening as one. Everybody reached there, and all these cultures, all these pursuits, language, literature, philosophy, dance, they evolve towards that, whichever part of the country may be.
Evolve towards the fact that everything is happening
As one big living entity, the whole cosmos. It's not the Advaita as
Okay,
they call it.
hold on. I'll have to
Yes.
stop you because you've said
Sure.
something very complex and I gotta
Sure.
make it slightly more simple.
Sure.
You're saying that you, me, these plants, the people in this room are all actually one. And the purpose of human existence is to slowly understand that concept more and more.
I wouldn't say the purpose. That is what it leads towards. Whatever we do, what are we doing? So every life, if you look at it, is consuming another life. The way life functions is life consumes life and becomes life, and that becomes food for something else. That's why they call it the food cycle, the whatever cycle.
Yeah.
So it's a cycle. You become food, then you consume that food, you go back to that food. It's the whole, this is one living cosmos, the whole entity.
Carbon cycle, I think it's called.
The food chain, sorry.
Food chain and
That's
carbon
not
cycle.
the food cycle, the
Okay.
food chain.
Yeah.
It's a chain. It's all of it is linked to each other. So as your experience grows deeper, you see what that is the question of life, right? So when you have nothing to be worried about, that immediately nothing is taken care of, you get these more deeper, more leisurely people questions that kya hai, kya ho raha hai ye sab? Like what is going on around me? What is me even? That is the more fundamental question. Who is this experiencing all this? So that is what all these cultures go towards. And Sanskrit, bringing back Sanskrit here, is one language which has developed such extensive vocabulary to delve the inner aspects of things and address these questions, and in how many different ways. All the 108 Upanishads and more, all these other philosophies, even if you sing the 7 notes or dance to a particular rhythm, all of it was towards experiencing that divine. So in essence, the whole, world languages are trying to do that, convey something that you see in through sound. So what will come out as sound at some level is linked to the nature of what is being conveyed. So that, if your perception is keen enough, will be the same. If your perception is, you know what that thing that needs to be conveyed is deep enough. And this level of perception is called as Ritambhara Prajna, one more such superhuman siddhis that these people are supposed to have. In Yoga Sutras, it comes up.
What is the siddhi?
Prajna. So prajna is that perception. Jna is knowledge. Knowledge and jna sounds similar somewhere. So prajna is that profound state of perception where you know the sound that is associated with any particular entity around you. You perceive creation as sound. Just sound. So you look at you know the vibe that we call very, colloquially. You actually perceive the sound of somebody and then you name them accordingly so that it hits you and
Damn.
and helps you in your progress. And Kalidasa mentioned this, captured this relationship between sound and its essence in one of his shlokas, saying Vak and Artha are intertwined, they are inseparable. One doesn't exist without the other. If there is some sound, it has an essence to it. If there is something, some entity, some essence that needs to be conveyed, it has a sound to it. They are like Shiva and Shakti. They are like the primordial father and mother of all of creation. That is the relationship between sound and its essence. Sanskrit captures that essence to its core, and you can feel it. It's the quickest path towards perceiving that vibe of something. And one example that I can give you is the sound bha represents brilliance and deepti, glow and radiance. So prabha, abha, bhaskara, bhanu. So wherever this
Bhairav.
that bhai is
It's different?
is from a different
Okay.
thing. Rava is sound. We'll come to Rava if I come across it, but yes.
I can talk to you for 5 hours, dude. Like how much knowledge do you have about this?
No, I've been doing this for a long, but isn't this fascinating? Time just flies by, right? So what do you extract out of it? I extract mindgasms out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it's also a never-ending kind of rabbit hole, dude.
Oh, definitely. Nice that you use that word, because I think so many times.
You're talking about almost 15,000 years of culture at least behind you.
Maybe. I don't know for sure, but we have a cyclical understanding of time. Pata nahi kitne yugon se hai. So we don't know. Who knows? People think, okay, if you carbon date something, you see how something which is decaying over time, how many years must have taken for it, that isotope. What must have happened if everything went away? I mean, this is the scientific thought, right? So that is the limitation there, but that is what gave us all these gadgetry and all this access to the world. So I have due respect towards all that kind of pursuit, the Western scientific pursuit, that everything needs to be logical, fit into the rational logic of mind. What if there exists creation which is beyond the ambit of mind, which it is, because mind is an aspect of creation. It is not the source of creation. So how many years ago, Sanskrit? Anadi. I don't know. So Sadhguru and many people say, they try to take back the dates to reasonable levels of logical understanding, that hoga. It must have been 15,000. It must have been 20,000. What about before that? Okay, fine. There were whatever Neanderthals, Cro-Magnons, whatever. But time in itself, I'm guessing you must have covered the nature of time, what Kala means, and what. There is this beautiful movie, now you also referred to this movie called Arrival. There is this beautiful movie called Man from Earth. Have you watched Man from Earth? You must watch it. You will love it. So what is time? So in that, there is this one dialogue that I remember, that one of the professors says, one culture, one civilization in the past had this understanding that we are passing through time layer by layer, slice by slice. Like we are actually moving in time, not in space, but it is time which is the primal measurement. It is not space as we see, which are these dimensions. Time is the primary dimension that is at work.
Do you believe that?
It's perceivable, right?
Dude, maybe it's not perceivable for a lot of people listening to this.
Take some time and see, okay, there was this moment that just passed. I just uttered a few things. It is not there anymore. Where is it in creation? Unless for some imprints of it. So you go on a trip, if nothing else happened, it's just a memory. You might as well have dreamt it. Did this ever happen to you? So what time is, all there is in creation is this moment. I don't know how much of boundaries I'm stepping into, but
step in, bro.
The only truth, the only reality of creation is this moment. So all that has been, all there was just moments and moments and moments and moments. Just so it can be gotten into, it can be perceived. You just need some silence in your head, like, right? It can be calmed down. And Patanjali says it beautifully, that you are able to perceive creation for what it is when your mental nonsense calms down. So yeah. So when you calm it and you you direct your attention towards any particular aspect of creation, that will unravel itself to you. For that to happen, that mind needs to be sharp and clear as a knife.
I went to an art gallery recently. I've been going to art galleries because I've been enjoying it much more as I age. Both maybe from an aspect of aging and maybe from an aspect of yoga where you become one with the artist. But again, this is a very weird concept that not many people will get.
Yes.
And often if I take a friend of mine who's creatively inclined and I try doing my art interpretation, many of them agree and say that, yeah, this is probably what I feel also when I see it.
Yes.
Do you have this?
Would you call it intuitively knowing something?
Dude, I don't know, man.
Intuition?
I don't know. And I don't want to clap for myself here or
Sure.
anything. I'm just
Sure.
relaying an experience.
Yes. So have you had moments, just asking, where you know something without having arrived at, how you know something? Maybe there are English words to it, premonition, that
Intuition.
maybe intuition. It sounds like this situation might have happened in my dream, but it looks like it's happening right now. People have words like deja vu, like all these words.
I think intuition begins at the level of you understanding the people who come into your life and what vibe they bring. And then it goes to non-living objects also. And situations.
The gateway towards knowing creation more wholly than in bits and pieces is to approach it through your intuition and to just perceive things the way they are. You can perceive whatever is in creation. The human body is the biggest machine. I know you have your fascination for Tantra and the occult and the mystical aspects, the more practical mystical aspects.
I was just thinking of asking you a question related to it, but go on.
This is the finest antenna to creation. Everything that is at play in creation, we have it. How refined do we keep it? How tuned are we with that? So you just receive what there is to know. People, all these sages from the past who are said to have these insane, impossible levels of understanding about every aspect of every field of study. They did not apply their minds, and they were not rigorously writing, okay, now I should compile a number, compile a shloka to represent pi to so many decimal places. They just knew it intuitively. That is, again, there is a flip side to it, that you can't teach it to somebody. And even if you want to develop that level of intuition, it takes a lot of work. It is very personalized. Arriving at it through intellectual dissection, just putting it down in terms of logical step-by-step processes, is easily teachable, transmittable. People can get it easily. You can train people en masse. But to develop intuition is a very, self-centered focus. It takes individual care. But if it happens, it is extremely rewarding. And we would not have ended up in this kind of situations where the first thing about, first thought when you look at something alien is a shield, that, okay, now how do I look at it? How do I make use of it? You don't approach it with thought. You approach it with intuition. What is the nature of it? How does it feel?
Let's talk about actionables. How do you actually improve your intuition?
Sure. All these paths are towards that. The paths galore. My goodness, the number of paths that this culture has given out, from japa, dhyana. The 8 limbs of yoga are towards that. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. These eight are actual steps. Practical aspects of it. Start with yama. What are the processes of yama? It sounds very mundane. It sounds very practical, doable. Yama, this literally means external discipline. You start bringing that discipline. Now people will start waning off, because that is what is needed. If you want to work towards something, the first thing anybody got anything in their life knows that it starts with discipline. So the simplest, most practical anybody can do is external discipline. Those are yamas. Ahimsa, asteya. Ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha.
What's asteya?
Asteya is non-stealing. Not coveting somebody else's thing and not going after. These sound like commandments. They are, because that is what they also, every tradition which knew the importance of putting people on discipline so that they can grow further came up with these monk orders, right? Monk E. So the value of discipline.
Yeah, I think that's the one lesson I've learned through podcasts with tantrics and monks and anyone who's spiritual. It actually boils down to your discipline. How much you're willing to do every day at that one time.
Any aspect of, you want result, you put in the work. It's as simple as that. And yeah, those 5 are yamas, and there are niyamas, which are inward acts of discipline. These are a little more difficult. Outside, okay, you can stop, tie down your hands, sit in a place, and have chastity belts for aparigraha, for brahmacharya, whatever else. External discipline imposing upon yourself is very crude, very forceful. But then imposing internal discipline on the self, it's a little more subtle. It takes as much more energy, and you need to be centered. That is step number 2. All of this, you'll see, will make your body into a better and better antenna. And I'm not kidding. It'll sound all airy-fairy if I say that I had these kinds of experiences. Every single human being, irrespective of what their capabilities are, where they are, how much their understanding is, if they are on this path, they will find their results, and it's perceivable. We are not working in that direction. Since childhood, nobody has put us on these paths. So we haven't developed those siddhis, let me use the word. They developed those, gotten far in those aspects of
abilities
life.
Of the human body which
lovely.
are locked right now. You can unlock those abilities using these rules.
You work towards it. These 8 are that is why Patanjali is considered more of a scientist than a sage, because he put down words in the most practical, approachable ki ye kar lo. Just do this. Okay, what is yoga? This is yoga. That's it. One line.
He was the YouTuber back then. The infotainment
he was
YouTuber.
The OG content creator.
He's
like boiling down the... I mean, there are many like that. Panini, Patanjali, Katyayana, there are Shushruta, Charaka, in their own fields. Bharata.
I feel they collected and put down knowledge that they gained from lots and lots of people and lots of experimentation with the human mind and body and soul.
Can I...
Go for it.
This is again... looking at knowledge as something that needs to be accumulated from multiple sources, gather it here. This all knowledge, that everything that needs to be known is here already. You can perceive, you can tap into any aspect of creation. All you need to do is work on this. You don't go out in search of knowledge. You sit down and close your eyes in search of knowledge. Can you beat that? So you don't, yes, these knowledge systems existed around. It's not that they are the first ones to have come up with it. I mean, some of these knowledge systems are like that. They are the first ones to have come up with it. But where did it come from? It exists in creation. It is a human capability that found expression through them because they worked on themselves. That is why...
Okay. What about the other 6 steps? Yama, Niyama,
Asana.
Which is your physical yoga.
Asana is to arrive.
Okay.
To sit, and to asan is asan grahan kijiye. What does it mean? Just take a seat. So it is even Patanjali goes on to describe it. I'm thinking of how to describe it now. Patanjali just did everything, spoke everything that needs to be known. Sukham sthiram asanam. Everybody, all yoga teachers probably know this already. Something, any damn thing, any posture of your body, any situation where you're sukha, where you are at ease, sthira, where you are firm. You need to be firm, and you should not be jangled up in your head. Sukham sthiram asana. That's it. How do you get towards it? Because body is that biggest hurdle towards being visible. If you sit for a long time, your knee starts to cramp, or your shoulders start to ache, your neck gets stiff. But to get towards that state of ease, you need to rub the body, exercise. Sadhguru uses this word again. You need to knead the body. K-N-E-A-D, knead. Like atta, you do it again and again so that it becomes malleable. Just no knots, no hurdles within yourself. So you sit, and sukha sthira, if you sit, that is asana, the 3rd step. I'm plugging in this for free, but I got enormous value out of it. Is maybe any asana, course that is taught with some integrity, some sense of devotion, and some sense of sanctity. But this 21-day Hatha Yoga program that they offer in Isha Yoga Center in Coimbatore, you just sit through those 21 days, you will unlock these abilities that you've said within yourself, and in such a tangible, very perceivable, no confusion as to, am I thinking, dreaming this up, or is this something happening? I'm not the guy who would like get brainwashed so easily, but I bought into it. And did I buy into it heavily? Is because it works. That is why it's been coming down through whatever millennia without anybody imposing it upon anybody else, because as soon as you put in those works, the very 4 steps, the first few steps, you will find those results for yourself. You will see that these benefits are tangible possibilities in one's life. Asana is getting the body to a state of ease physically and being firm in that. Pranayama is to prachardhana vidharanabhyam va pranasya. So prana is the life force within the body. So breath is the physical aspect of it, and then it goes in, and the prana shaktis will get into the chakras and all that stuff. If
They say
you get too much into
breath is the one thing that links your body to your soul.
yes.
So if you learn to control your breath, you're also controlling the prana in your body.
There are 3 places in the body where which kind of tie the soul that you use, the self, let's just say you, the sense of you, to your physical body. Those are called as Brahma Granthi, Vishnu Granthi, and Rudra Granthi. Granthi literally means a knot in Sanskrit. So there are this breath that is going in like a sutra, like a thread, is tying up yourself to your physical body, like you said, at 3 places. And those 3 are called as Brahma Granthi. So the knot of creation, the knot of sustenance, and the knot of dissolution. They are at the Manipuraka, Anahata, and Agnya chakras.
Which is where?
Manipuraka is slightly below the base of the belly.
Sacral chakra.
Sacral, I think, is Swadhisthana, the one associated with sexual energies, the reproductive one.
Which is not the bottommost.
The bottommost is Mooladhara, Moola Adhara.
Okay.
It is.
So Manipura is
the one, the fire, the
solar
belly.
plexus.
Solar plexus is this.
That's the heart.
Yes, solar plexus is Anahata. That I know. If you sacral is Swadhisthana, maybe guys can somebody look up quickly what Manipuraka is. Manipuraka is belly chakra is their navel chakra. I think they call it navel.
Above your belly button.
Slightly below. half an inch below.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me go into this also. It is tangible. You can actually feel these in the body. This will sound like, all airy-fairy stuff. I don't want to go into ruining, the logical aspect of it. But you can actually feel that energy. You can move. It's life energy that is functioning within. You can do things with it. There are many demonstrations of this. Very tangibly, you can see that people can put off that fire just by looking at it. So you can move that energy that is within. You start with first finding where it is and being able to sense it. That, okay, this is present. This is not somebody's theory. This is how the human body functions. Then you see if you can move it around. You can play around with it within your own body. You can direct it wherever you want. It's towards your eyes, your feet, whatever you're doing. Then you see you can move it outside the ambit of your body. You push the limits a little more. You look at it step by step and go towards, and once the energies are floating around, you can make things function like you are the creator here.
Let's go over the other steps also.
Yes. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama. Pranayama is to get mastery over the life force. How you do it, there are steps. You see, they are getting gradually more and more subtle, more and more complex. So as you climb these steps, you will, the sadhana gets, you need more and more discipline. But that is why you need a guru. So you need not necessarily climb all the steps, step by step. That is the beauty of it. Somebody can transfer all of it to you because you are already equipped. It is not that you have to start with the building blocks. All the building blocks are already there. They just have to fall in place. Have to just be tuned. So pranayama, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. Pratyahara is to turn the senses inwards. All the sense organs, there are 5 sense organs, this much we know. And even this was first figured out in a very sensible way in Sanskrit literature, that pancha indriyaha. There are 5 sense organs, there are 5 organs of action, 5 motor organs. This is actually mapped with the cerebral hemisphere, cerebral cortex. There is the motor homunculus and the sensory homunculus, all that. The neurologists, these are actually mapped to the lobes of the brain, these 5 organs. And their entire ambit of activity, their entire function is outward oriented. You can see out through your eyes. All the indriyas, Krishna again, so they are in the vishayas, they are in the subject of their function. They are always involved in that. Now you, like a tortoise retracts its limbs from being outside and takes them into its shell. Kurma angani iva sarvashaha, in Bhagavad Gita it comes. So you retract all your 5 sense organs within yourself, and you no longer have any input of what is going on, worldly input. That level of control over your senses is called as pratyahara.
How do you get that?
Pratyahara, there is this very simple mudra. I mean, to practice it as a physical process is simple. To gain mastery over it takes a lot of time. Have you seen people practicing Brahmari mudra?
Yeah.
So they close their eyes with their 2 fingers, they plug their ears with their thumbs, and they do this.
Like this.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry,
yes.
bro, I can't hear anything. Sorry. Go on.
No, I could do some practice corrections, but yes, Brahmari mudra will, you are physically doing it, but without the help of your limbs also, without forcibly doing it, you can turn your senses inwards. Brahmari mudra is one of the practices. I don't know all of them.
Mudra is a hand position.
Mudra is a gesture.
Okay.
You can think of it as a gesture.
Okay.
You can Ashwini mudra. There is a mudra where you just pull up your rectal muscles consciously. It doesn't use hands.
What is it used for? I've heard a lot of people saying this.
Ashwini mudra.
Yeah.
It stops energies. So what are all these energies? Again, prana, your life force. Where can it move? It can move along the body, length and breadth of the body. The biggest channel for it to move is the spine. So the objective of all of this, you grow subtler and subtler, you become a better and better antenna if the energies move upwards along the spine and reach the brain, and don't go downwards and towards the baser processes of life. Ashwini mudra is to consciously, is like, what are they called? Kegels exercises they do?
Kegel. Yeah.
They use the muscles of the pelvis around that to pull it up. It's very possible. Everybody can try this, but don't try this without supervision for long periods of time. You pull it up consciously, and you see that once there is that tightness there, you will not find the baser instincts of sleep, of thirst, of hunger, of, all those. This is magical to observe, that those will naturally go down. You don't have to put an alarm to wake up early morning.
As in, you have to just pull up your rectal muscles.
We are now teaching yoga to people. Yes, you tighten them. You need not. Can we do that exercise?
I am doing it as you speak.
Yes, it is called as Ashwini mudra. So because they say
you try doing
horses do it.
You try doing this through the day?
Eventually, that is how you are. Even if the muscles are not there tight, the lock is on.
How do you begin? You just do it for longer and longer
periods. The simplest
way
is to sit in Ardha Siddhasana. I'm talking about all these aspects of Isha Foundation and Isha Yoga that I've learned. That is where I know these from. Is to sit in a particular asana where the heel is naturally placed there at the Muladhara Chakra. So it acts as a stop. A little stopper there. You don't have to consciously, tighten your muscles all the time and be like that. If you place your heel there, and it's extremely comfortable to sit in that posture, beyond comfortable. It's like as soon as you sit in that, you feel like I'm home.
The one pre-planned question I had for this particular conversation was about mantras.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a kid, I always saw my mom going about her mantra jap, while she did her puja at night. And I'd think to myself that there's something about these tunes. But never really gave it more thought than that until I became an adult, did a lot of Om chanting meditation myself. And that's the most basic, most primal mantra, an Om. And then there's a whole horde of mantras that arose out of Hinduism over the centuries. My question to you is, how similar mantras to spells?
Okay.
If you truly know about how to use mantras because I'm reading a book by someone called Om Swami. The
of
book is
course.
called The Power of the Gayatri Mantra.
Mhm.
And I've realized mantras are even more
Hmm.
than what I knew them to be as.
Hmm.
So maybe the first question to you is, what is a mantra according to you?
Oh, that's very simple. I recently saw your podcast with Om Dhumatkar also. So his definition was spot on. Mananath trayata iti mantraha. And it looks like some Sanskrit knowing person gave him that definition, and that is the definition. And all these three go together usually.
Which is what?
Manana is internalization into the mind. So
Hmm.
just, and Trayata is that which takes us across. Tara, the goddess Tara, also the root sound form is from Trana. So Tarati, the one who takes us across. Across what will come to later. But multiple streams of thoughts that you had mentioned. Om Swami, amazing uh, guru. I don't know. I thought amazing man. I thought I'll say, but he is one of those very blessed human beings, and it's a fortune that we have such a person now.
Highly recommend that book to
Definitely,
listeners.
highly recommend all of his talks, all of his books. Visiting his ashram, I want to, and yeah, I mean
About mantras.
Coming back to this topic of what these mantras are and are they similar to spells. The limited understanding of what a spell is that I have is you use a spell on something or somebody else, right? You turn something into something, you get somebody into your control. You want something to manifest and use that spell. These kinds spells are outward bound.
Maybe at least my perception of spells is from Harry Potter, where it could just be to create a shield around you, which mantras also do.
I'm a language guy. So if you say spell, I think, okay, spell is from spelling something out. So that is the limited understanding of like vak. Spell, if I had to think of it and understand the word in its essence, I would think spell is something that you spell out in that sense. Something that you chant out.
That's a very fair explanation. That's what I'm liking about talking to you. This linguistic angle on thoughts.
Kind of root myself there. So you need to find that rooting somewhere, because I find that a lot of my curiosity is answered that way. If I delve deep into what must this be, what must its essence be?
Nomenclature.
Religion is one such thing which I found. So what is this whole thing about religion versus spirituality? To legare, religion comes from legare, to unite, to bind with something, to find union with something. It's a whole another tangent. But I find, like you've noticed, I find that clarity in observing where sounds are from, what is that beating heart within the word that is spoken. That is the dhatu. Where is it coming from?
The dhatu.
Dhatu.
What is dhatu?
In Ayurvedic, in the topic of Ayurveda, we saw how dhatu is the fundamental building block, that which holds essence. In Sanskrit, the dhatu, the same word is used to mean that which holds, that is the fundamental building block, that which holds the essence of the meaning. Like I said, bha means brilliance. Kha represents space. Khagola, khanija. Sukha is being in a good space. Dukha is being in a bad space. Khaga is that which goes through space. Shankha is that which purifies the space around you. Sham, Shubham is Shankara is the one who causes Sham, Shubham. Shankha is that which creates wellness in the space around us, in the Kha.
Sha is positivity.
Sham is Shubham. Shantanoti. Shantanotu is one of the blessings. Blessings or curses, those are spells, right? That's the general understanding of a spell. But
dude, in your answers, there's so many separate tangents. And
I find the same thing with your questions.
Yeah. Well, thanks. But there's so much data, dude, like where your answers are coming from. I love it.
Sure.
And you're still like an engineering mind. So you still answer the question.
I'm trying to keep it, be in that locus of wherever I'm running around, I'm trying to root it around.
No, this is very interesting. No one on the show has brought up linguistics before. So I'm loving it. Go on.
Sure. But about your very specific question of how similar are mantras to spells. So that is where I'm running around. That is my locus. So every sound of Sanskrit is a mantra. Any sound can be used as a mantra if you go by some gurus. Which is a mantra is basically a sound which holds a certain power, which has been consecrated for some use. Consecrated, again, a loaded word. In that sense, let me tell you this. Every sound, there are 50 sounds within the human body. This has been presented by me in a course called Vakshuddhi. Now that you brought that tangents up, there are so many bursts of thoughts happening.
It's good.
That is, again, precisely why it is extremely important how you utter the sounds of Sanskrit. Because even a slight nuanced shift in the utterance can change the meaning drastically. So, artha is meaning, ardha is half, right? So, a small a, shubha and ashubha. So, many people, so school can't, many people can't. Skanda, many people I've seen pronounce skanda as Askanda Puran. So the slight changes happen with different regional influences. Bengalis, for example, say sh instead of sa, namaskar. But for sakala, which is sakal, sub, everything, you say shakala. Shakala in Sanskrit means a fragment. So with just sa to sha, there is a drastic shift in meaning. That is why there are many cautionary tales from the Puranas emphasizing this fact that why is it vital that you utter something perfectly when you're speaking a language which is as powerful as Sanskrit. Mantras are such sounds which are extremely potent. And why are they potent like that? The are stories are abundant. One thing is all these sounds of Sanskrit are said to originate from Lord Shiva's Damru. When he struck his Damru 14 times, that is the origin of all the sounds of Sanskrit alphabet, some say. Some say all the sounds of Sanskrit are the skulls around Ma Kali's neck, the garland. Some say all the sounds of Sanskrit are the bells around the waistband of goddess Lalita. Some say the sounds of Sanskrit are the body parts of Masati when Shiva, in the form of Veerabhadra, was carrying her corpse once she went into Daksha's yajna, and Shiva was just lost in that grief. Lord Vishnu threw his Sudarshan Chakra, and that shattered Masati's body into so many different fragments, 50 different fragments. They fell across the entire geography of the land, and each of them are ascribed with one body part of hers which fell, and all of them have one particular sound associated with it. Each individual letter of the alphabet of Sanskrit is taken up as sadhana, serious sadhana of one letter of the alphabet. Each of them are described of having very individualistic, personified properties that one can realize that, oh, this sound from a is of this nature.
So, like, if you just sit in one place and go ka,
Yes.
it'll actually have some effect on you.
Yes.
Because my understanding now is that in the same way that you have massages or yoga asanas, a certain posture will make you feel a certain way and do certain things to your body. In some ways, every sound in Sanskrit is an internal asana or an internal sort of massage. Maybe that you're giving to some part of your
This is your
body.
skill set of trying to make it relatable to the larger audience at large. So every sound, why make that analogy? The sound. One more thing is, we talked about the chakras, the 7 chakras you already know.
Yeah.
It's common now across popular literature. Muladhara has 4 petals. The Muladhara chakra, the
Your
Padma,
bottommost
has 4. The sounds there are Vam, Sham, Sham and Sam. And the Bija mantra of Muladhara is Lam. And the presiding deity is Ganesha, called as Lambodara at that part. So Lambodara, the sound Lam. So any worship that you're doing to Ganesha with that sound Lam invokes that energy there at the Muladhara.
Is this like a Bij mantra which you can just sit in one place and go Lam?
Yes.
Is it dangerous to put a Bij mantra out on the internet?
That is not generally how you take up that sadhana, because you never really know what will come out of it. How it will affect you, I'll quickly come to. That is why, because it is the very beginning, at the very base, you start with Ganesha Puja all the time, because he is the Lord of beginnings. You have to have a strong foundation to anything to get started, to build on top of.
Also, I feel if your lowest chakra is stabilized, you stop overthinking, you can stay in one place and focus. At least it's something I've used in my own meditations. I always focus on the lowest chakra first, to just be in one place, remove my overthinking, and then proceed with other forms of meditation.
Absolutely.
That's been my analogy for why you begin pujas with praying to Ganpati. But anyway, now go on.
Absolutely. The Bija mantra for Muladhara is Lam, and the 4 letters that are associated with each of the petals of Muladhara, 4 petals, are Vam, Sham, Sham, and Sam. Each of them again having their own individualistic properties. And Muladhara, whatever qualities and attributes it is associated with, each of them have that individual attribute. And if you start chanting, like you said, that Vam, you notice where that position is in your body, you can target the Nadi Vyavastha. The body is comprised of many, many nadis. Nadi is a channel of energy. So these sounds activate and represent the nature of the nadis, the energy system in that particular branch. So all the aspects of human capabilities that are associated with that, you make use of the sound there. In every chant that is associated with that particular capability, you have that sound. The Muladhara has 4, Swadhisthana has 6, Manipuraka 10, Anahata 12, Vishuddhi 16, and Agnya 2. And Sahasrara is infinite, beyond. So all of these, the numbered ones, if you count them up, they'll form 50 petals. And those 50 match up with the 50 sounds of Sanskrit alphabet, 16 vowels and 34 consonants from A to Ksha.
Wow.
And all of them have these geological, presence of different Shaktipitas. And because they are all aspects of the Divine Mother, the goddess, each letter of Sanskrit alphabet is called as a Matrika. Mata being the goddess, the mother, Shakti. Matrika, an aspect of the mother. The story does not end. And this series of sounds, when they came out of Shiva's Damaru, was heard by Panini and was set in a particular sequence which sounds very much like the sounds of a Damaru. Ai, Un, Rilruk, Eong, Ayau, Chayavara, Thalan. You might have heard of this chant, which is called as Maheshwara Sutras. And this forms the basis of Panini's Ashtadhyayi, which was in popular discussion a couple of months ago. But this forms this just 14 sounds. Ai, Urna is one sound. Rilruk is one sound. Eong, I, Ouch, Hayavarat. That there are 14 sets of sounds. From this, with this as the base matrix, Panini then made sutras, very succinct, small formulae of grammar describing different sandhis, samasas, how you synthesize words out of sounds. And this is one of the fundamental fields of study you need to have a grasp on before you go to the study of Vedas.
Like you need to actually have an understanding of the sounds and what effect it has on your chakras, your body. Then you can go into the Vedas.
Not to that extent, but you need to know that there exists a field like this, that there is a connection between these, and this is where you need to, this is the perspective with which you need to approach, so that you are able to grasp and unravel the verses of the Vedas. Without this holistic perspective, if you look at the Vedas, sometimes they might make sense, sometimes they might not make sense.
Okay.
But if you have this understanding, now these start to reveal meaning, and this is one limb, one aspect. There are 6 other. There are Vedangas, you might have heard. So this one we were talking about is the Shiksha aspect of it. There are 6 limbs to the study of Vedas. Shiksha, we talked about. Chandas, Vyakarana, Kalpa, Jyotisha, and Nirukta. So in any particular order, you can approach one, and you need to have a holistic perspective of all of them, including Jyotisha and Kalpa. Kalpa is all about rituals. Unless you have a holistic perspective of what all of these fields of study are, what the perspective is, if you take up suktas or you take up verses and chants from the Vedas, you'll not have a holistic perspective. Okay. I have not gone into what each of those other 6 mean yet. We are still at the level of Shiksha, which is sounds.
You could just give like words, because we won't go into those in this particular episode.
Shiksha is what we are talking about, how sounds are potent, what do sounds mean, and what kind of impact they have, where did they originate from. Shiksha, and after that comes Chandas. Chandas is one of my most favorite fields of study, which is how syllables can be arranged in a lilt.
In a what?
Lilt. In a flow. Sway, in a flow, in a rhythm. Jataatavi galajjala pravahapa vitasthale gale valam vyalam vitam nana 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 nana. One short, one long syllable. Nana nana. It is the same chandas in Mudakarata Mudakam Sada Vimukti Sadhakam on Ganesha. And the chant of from Narayaniam that I was talking about, Kesha Pasha Dhruta Pinchika Vitati Sanchalan Makara Kundalam Na 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 na. It just gives me such high because it's so artistic. How those words form those patterns has enormous meaning. So many layers of meaning. Saundarya Lahari, which is a composition of 100 shlokas by Adi Shankaracharya, describing the physical beauty of the mother goddess in a poetic meter called Shikharini. Shikharini, which means the offspring of a Shikhara, a mountain. Offspring of a Shikhara is the same name of Parvati, the goddess who is the daughter of a mountain, Himavan. It's the parallels that are drawn, why that pattern is the way it is. It's Gayatri is one of the chandases like that. Anushtup is one of the poetic meters like that. It's a fascinating, enormously rewarding field of study.
I have to boil it down to the basics again.
Okay.
What are the other four?
Yes, I'm coming back. I'm winding up.
Because I'm trying to just
Shiksha,
encapsulate.
Chandas, we are done. The next one is Vyakarana, which is grammar, which is how words combine and how, if there is a word, how do you analyze it? What is, what is verb, adverb, Vyakarana, grammar. Vyakarana, Shiksha, Chandas, Vyakarana. Nirukta. Nirukta is the etymology, a rough translation. Literally, it means nirukta, that which is unspoken, that which is felt and perceived. So, like how I was telling you that, rana, the sound rana is used in gati and dhvani. So, there are multiple bhu, the sound bhu is used in, is to denote presence of something, the existence, bhu sattayam. So, there are these sounds and what they are used in context of, that is nirukta, etymology, roughly translated as. And there is kalpa, which is how you arrange rituals, how, what kind of mantras to chant, what kind of altars to make, what kind of offerings go into a fire, what kind of chants you make at what time, all guidelines on into how you conduct rituals towards very specific benefits. And there is Jyotisha, which is the study of Jyoti. Jyotisha is again translated terribly into astrology. Jyoti, it's in the word itself, going back to studying the essence of the word itself. Jyoti is light. So, what are these celestial lights that are upon us? How do they impact us? Which they seem to be changing on a daily basis. They seem to have some kind of an influence on how human life is, how creatures around us function, how life has taken shape. All of that is Jyotisha, which has mainly been boiled down terribly into predictions and soothsaying these days. But Jyotisha is a very complex field of study which involves a lot of mathematics. Anybody who thinks it is pseudoscience should pick up Surya Siddhanta. They'll spend their lives studying the mathematics behind it. So these 6 limbs, Shiksha, Chandas, Vyakarana, Jyotisha, Nirukta and Kalpa, form the 6 Vedangas, which are limbs of Veda one must be aware of. Each of them is a unique field of study in its own, which takes lifetimes. But if you have a holistic perspective of all of them, you now can unravel the Vedas and start learning them.
Okay. Keeping in mind just mantras, because I have to close the loop on this mantra conversation because it's going to go deeper into this mantra conversation.
Let's do that.
Every sound of the Sanskrit alphabet and Devanagari in general has an effect on your chakras.
Devanagari is the script. It can be any script. This the way you write it. The Shiro Rekha wala is Devanagari. Bangla has its own script. Gurumukhi has, Malayalam, Telugu. Everybody has their own script. Devanagari is the normal Hindi wala.
It's the way to express it, but
it's
actually
the
Sanskrit
writing system.
Okay.
Devanagari. So sounds of Sanskrit.
Even Bangla and all these other languages will basically be built on sounds of Sanskrit.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm wondering, in Bengal, where so much sh is used more, you said sh represents what?
Sham. It's the third petal in the Muladhara chakra.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think because maybe traditionally, damn, now this is becoming a little philosophical.
Uh-huh.
Do you think Bengal as a region was more focused on Mooldhara prayers? That's why Shah kind of made it to the forefront in that
I
culture.
think it's more to do with cuisines and the the kind of food, the kind of regional climate that influences the structure of one's tongue. What sound
Wow.
somebody is is easy. It's easy to utter these sounds, and it is not easy to
Okay.
utter these sounds. These are prominently found everywhere across the country. In Telugu, some sounds mixing up has to do with how they write it in the script. In Telugu, for example, tha and dha are very similar except for a single dot. So they mix up tha and dha.
Okay.
So a lot of factors influence.
Got it. Okay, so we can't go philosophical there, but this is what mantras are. And
Yes.
some rishis or ancient researchers kind of figured that this combination of sounds has this kind of effect on the human mind and existence because it's related to this kind of deity. Now, how do you explain to the masses what sounds and language and vibrations mean? You attach stories to it to make people understand.
Correct.
That is what I look at as the origin of mantras from a very realistic perspective. When we imagine we go back in a time machine to 15,000 years ago,
Mhm.
how would you explain to the masses who maybe didn't have the internet then? Maybe.
Mhm.
How do you explain to them what mantras do?
Mhm.
Probably put it into stories.
Absolute. Oh, I thought you were asking that as a question, and I thought I'll give you this answer. Yes, the stories are.
Okay.
Yes.
But mantras specifically, the question was about mantras being spells. And I use spells because of the limitations of the English language.
Hmm.
So mantras have an effect on your existence.
That is why they are called mantras.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything more to this mantra angle?
The point that you brought in the beginning when you're saying that these mantras that are present within, again going back to that same shloka, these correspond to those particular deities to worship them. The mantra is not different from the deity, and the deity is not different from the yantra, and the tantra is so the mantra yantra tantra system, all of it works as a whole unit.
Okay.
So you don't say that the Ganesha is different from Ganesha yantra. It is the same thing. It is a diagrammatic description of how that Mooladhara chakra is. We are not. Come on, it's a story, definitely a story that somebody who had the physical features of an elephant is riding around on a rat. Come on, or all the symbolism and what kind of weapons he holds, what kind of physical features he has, what is his vehicle, what are his attributes, what kind of food he likes, what kind of he's not coming and eating, we are feeding ourselves. All of that was to empower that chakra, and that is where this deities are from. So the interesting one very potent text which boils down the essence of all of these is compiled by Lord Parashurama, the disciple of Lord Dattatreya. The text is called Parashurama Kalpa Sutras, Kalpa, the ritual again, which talks about how you approach the worship of each individual deity, starting from Ganesha at the very Mooladhara, going towards Bala Tripura Sundari, towards Subramanya, and towards Shyamala, and then Varahi, and then Lalita, and then Para. So this is again the same system of going from Mooladhara to Sahasrara. So how do you move from that which is the baser instincts of life towards that which are the subtler instincts of life in a ritual format, not as sitting down and trying to pump up your life energies either through pranayama or through any other physical means, but through a process which is very external, which does not need as much discipline. If you think about it, it does not need a lot of internal discipline. This is a lot of external symbolism. You gather these puja dravyas, you make it into a whole societal affair. So there is a lot of celebration around it. You don't no longer feel this process of refining life energies as something which needs a lot of discipline and something which is very daunting task. It's baked into the very cultural ethos of the land that these are the deities, these are their relationships with each other, and this is the kind of food you offer to each of them. This is the time of the year during which you worship them. These are the rules for the fast. Isn't it genius that instead of that you work towards the same human upliftment, but without the rigor and without that boredom or that that
monotony,
that without making it
you're talking about off yoga, monotony of the
monotony
yogic
of
path.
systems which are much more serious in their approach. This is doing the same thing in a celebratory way, right?
With mantra jap being the basis of it.
All of it with the
Okay.
entire, so mantra, yantra, tantra, like I said, all of them working as,
Which is why they say that in most modern day Hindu households, you're actually following tantra without knowing it.
absolutely. Who said
all
this?
this
Yes,
is tantra?
absolutely,
This is an
100%. This
insight
is
from the
your,
show.
yes, say Ranveer Allahbadia, this is true.
No,
Yeah, this is true.
It was actually someone called Acharya Prashant, where I asked him about tantra.
I have a lot of respect for him.
Yeah,
Yes.
same. One of the most well-read people I've met in my life. And
He and Sadhguru are not, I don't think they are at, I don't know. His take on things is very,
yeah, he's different from everyone you had on the show,
yes.
but he's very well-read. And he said that, people don't understand that most modern day Hinduism is actually tantra.
yes.
But when we hear the word tantra, we automatically think of tantric sex,
Yeah.
ghosts, etc. For which we have Rajarshi Nandi to break down all those concepts.
I mean, even what he's saying is not, totally all, scary stuff. It is how it is.
Yeah.
Sadhguru puts it as, we are all ghosts. We have a body, they lost it.
Yeah.
It's something, yeah.
Which brings me back again to, okay, you've answered like this mantra question.
Mhm.
Now I want to dive deeper.
Mhm.
A friend of mine told me that the Gayatri Mantra and the Mahamrityunjaya Mantra are two of the most powerful mantras in Hinduism.
Mhm.
Let's answer the question of the Gayatri Mantra first. Let's
Mhm.
explain that.
Mhm.
What does it
Before
mean?
you ask that question, two of the most powerful mantras, definitely. But the mantra that you have mentioned before, the pranava, that's it. You don't need
Om.
anything. Omkara.
Omkara.
The Gayatri Mantra is great. Mahamrityunjaya is wonderful. And, all the other chants, each shlokas, all the stotras, the different, there are Panchadashi and Shodashi and the Ashtakshari, Panchakshari mantras. Great, wonderful. But the one mantra to rule them all is pranava. You don't need anything else.
You mean just,
If you're just that's it.
That's
Because
it.
that's it. That is the sound from which everything, it is the sound of creation.
So why do these even exist then?
For specific purposes. That is the overarching, and answers your ultimate life question straight away. Like, where do you need to go? You need to hit Sahasrara, go for it. Don't do sightseeing, go for the final thing.
Okay.
Liberate.
But I
Get
want to do some
liberation.
sightseeing.
You want to do sightseeing, you like the the things of life, you want those Vashikarana mantras. Now we get into Tantra. You want a lot of knowledge, you do Sharada mantra. You do,
It's the first time in my life I'm hearing these words.
which one?
Sharada mantra.
Yeah, God is Saraswati, one other way of saying Sharada.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So Lakshmi and Varahi is the tantric form of Lakshmi. I recently did a chant on Shyamala Dandakam. What is Shyamala is the tantric form of Saraswati. Saraswati we all know as this very sattvic, white, sari clad, sitting on a white lotus or a white swan, holding a veena and a Sphatika mala, the crystal mala, and very sattvic goddess. Yes, as a sattvic pursuit of learning. And then there is goddess Rajashyamala or Matangi, who is like all fierce, like dark aspect of goddess Saraswati, not in the terms of she'll cause you any harm, but she is much more over encompassing, as in, if you want to pursue a field of study which is not necessarily sattvic, which is rajasic or even tamasic, there is a goddess of learning those kinds of aspects as well, because it's not like they are bad or wrong. It's another field of another aspect of creation. They also exist, the rajasic and tamasic aspects.
Okay.
So you need not always do a field of pursuit which is all goody.
Yeah.
Mm.
Again, I'm trying to simplify this for the audiences.
Did I delve too far?
No,
Okay.
I love it.
Sure.
In Harry Potter, when they say expecto patronum, it has a certain kind of effect, versus when they say something else, it has another kind of effect.
Wingardium Leviosa. You're
Wingardium
talking
Leviosa.
about Potterhead.
Yeah, so all those.
Expelliarmus.
Expelliarmus. It has a certain kind
Sectum
of effect.
Sempra.
Or my favorite, Kamehameha.
Kamehameha. I did not get into Naruto as much. Is it Naruto or Dragon Ball Z?
Dragon Ball Z. Kamehameha. And it's a great representation of visually what mantras can be. In Dragon Ball Z, when he says Kamehameha, there's a blast. But my angle on mantras is, you're still creating a blast, but you probably can't see it.
It's perceivable. It's tangible. It's subtler. It's of course, and if you visualize it, you portray it.
Now you're saying that the Omkara is the basic mantra for you to connect with the higher power, the duality, God that exists. It's
That higher power is within you. Why
Yeah.
are we thinking about somewhere else?
okay. No, I
It's new.
was pointing towards the Sahasrara.
Sahasrara, then fine.
Okay.
Yes.
But all these other mantras that you're talking about
Yes,
have certain kinds of purposes.
exactly.
Okay. Now, keeping in mind the Gayatri Mantra and the Mahamrityunjaya Mantra, what are the purposes?
It's in the chant itself.
Okay.
Thankfully, not every mantra needs to have a tangible mental meaning, but both of these do. The core purpose of Gayatri Mantra is to Dhiyaha yaha naha prachodayat. Dhiyo yonah prachodayat. Dhi, the buddhi, that intellect, the mind. Prachodana is to stimulate it, to lighten it up. So to do that prachodana of the dhiyaha yaha naha prachodayat, you are worshipping, who guess? Sorry, doing a quiz kind of a thing. You are worshipping the sun deity in Gayatri Mantra. So, Savituhu Varenyam Bhargaha. Om Bhuhu Bhuvah Swaha Tat Savituhu Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyaha Yaha Naha Prachodaya. This is the split. I did a video on it. No, there is this thing called Anvayakrama that you do when you try to understand any shloka or anything in Sanskrit, because in Sanskrit that is the flexibility. You need not necessarily have A, B, C, D, E, that specific sequence of a sentence construction. You can jumble the words along with around in a sentence without changing the meaning in most of the sentences. So this one, Gayatri Mantra, is accessing the Varenyam Bhargaha, the highest source of energy for our life as we know it here, to access it so that it propels our minds forward.
It's a download of knowledge from the highest form of energy.
Not knowledge, I don't know, but it is accessing it. It's like we all have it within ourselves. We are products of the sun's energy, activating it and seeking it to propel our minds forward.
Okay. It's a way to create a deeper connection with the sun.
Yes.
In order to access higher forms of knowledge.
Of our own capabilities.
Capabilities.
Dhi is not always around knowledge. This buddhi is intellect as it's generally understood, but perception. Let's take that which holds.
Say when the sun is setting or sun is rising, it's a good time to do a Gayatri Mantra.
Absolutely.
What if you do it at night?
I mean, you can do it.
But the highest...
It's not as effective. I mean, there is... What if you work out and anything? You do it something, you do it well, right?
There's a technique.
What if you draw, but you draw it with a wooden stick?
Okay.
You still draw, but the question is...
Understood. Got it. So basically, to get the maximum benefits from a mantra, you follow the rules around it. My question is, okay, we are propelling ourselves forward through the Gayatri Mantra. Is this different from an Omkara?
It is towards buddhi and the dhi. Dhiyaha yahana prachodayat. And it is seeking a specific deity for a specific purpose. The bhuhu bhuvaha swaha is the sequence of planes of existence. Lokahas, they are called bhuloka, bhuvarloka and svarloka. So in that sequence of going from the gross to the subtle, may this glorious radiance of the sun propel us forward. So it is seeking a very specific deity or that energy of the sun for a very specific benefit. Similarly, Mahamrityunjaya Mantra, they are all very specific benefits. Or Ganesha Mantra. Krishna has a very tantric mantra. So there are very specific and Shyamala and stotras. So if you want to empower your capabilities of learning, you use a specific yantra, you chant that specific mantra, you worship that devata, not because they are some four-armed creature sitting up there. They are symbolisms of what that nature of human ability is. And it is there in our physiology because it is an aspect of creation. And this mantra, yantra and the devata represent that in a physiological, in a diagrammatical, in an energy sense. That is what you are empowering.
Okay. Got to move on to the Mahamrityunjaya Mantra.
Lovely. Mrityunjaya. Hasn't this been the eternal question?
Mrityu's death.
To gain victory over death. Mrityunjaya. So that is the biggest mystery of life. That is the hard if the science really has hard questions of science, as they call it, this is one. What the hell is death? Is it just cells decaying and not regenerating? If what happens to this human consciousness, if there is such a thing? So Mrityunjaya is to gain mastery over death, and there are many stories about why Lord Shiva is Mrityunjaya and why he is Mahakala and all that.
By mystery over death, you mean immortality?
No, it is the question, right? So right now we are here, we have known so many people. So those who are not there anymore, where did they go? What happened to them? Right? Is there such a thing as life after death? What happened? What is death even? So if you ask those fundamental questions of who am I, what is this life, what is the purpose of this, that should also be a natural question as to what happens to life, what is happening to life, where did we come from, what happens next, is there next?
Have you seen a movie called Soul? S-O-U-L?
I've heard about.
It's an animated Pixar movie.
Is this the one? Oh, I think I've seen it.
It's about death.
Nicely made, no?
It actually was very similar to the stuff spoken about in Autobiography of a Yogi, which I found a little creepy. That in a children's movie, they're talking about all these deep concepts about afterlife, rebirth.
Is this the same movie where there is this one soul which doesn't find a fit?
Same.
It was lovely. I kind of liked it. It was in a fun.
They tried showing very deep philosophy for children, like in a fun way. But and I highly recommend everyone go watch Pixar Soul.
Think so. I hope we are talking about the same movie.
No, we are. There's only one movie where they talk about souls taking rebirth and all that, dude. I don't think multiple animated movies are made about these concepts.
But that's extremely fascinating, no? So if there exists a self which is beyond the body and mind, and what happens to that self after the body and mind fall apart? So there are many ways in which death happens. Right? You can break the body and it no longer is fit to hold the self within. So you either decapitate it or any kind of physical harm you bring about it, it no longer becomes viable to hold it. Or with age, the body slowly becomes, you don't suddenly cause that decapitation, it slowly withers away in time. So in both these cases, when is it that even consciousness enters that ball of flesh that was formed after the fertilization of the egg? So there are texts which talk about it. Of course, none of it. Maybe down the time there is some research that comes about proving all of these verses. But at this particular at a mandala, after a mandala period, that is when the life that is when a soul or atma, I don't want to use these words, but that is when a soul enters a fertilized egg, an embryo, which is still just a bunch of flesh. That is when consciousness enters it, is what they say. And it is after that it takes on a conscious form and is able to perceive itself. And where was I going with this?
Mahamrityunjaya.
And which kind of soul gets into what kind of a womb and what kind of an embryo is also matched. So if the parents are of a certain kind, vasanas they call it. Vasana literally means a smell, but tendencies of what kind of inclinations they have, what they like, what they dislike, and that brings two people together, and that is what this soul that is there, that has left one body but yet is yet to dissolve into creation, it will find that embryo, is what they say. All of this is there in the scriptures, but is it tangible, provable? What kind of measures do we have? Do we even have scopes to measure such things? Nobody knows, but there exists information. And if you have some kind of reverence and kind of faith that okay, these people like Shankaracharya and Patanjali and Panini would not lie to us on purpose, it would make sense to believe such.
I got to bring you back to Mahamrityunjaya Mantra.
Sorry.
No, that's all good.
Mahamrityunjaya Mantra is worshipping one form of Shiva, four-armed form, where he is constantly bathing himself in nectar, being pure. And there is this very beautiful imagery of the personified form of Mahamrityunjaya Mantra. The verb form there, the seeking, is to liberate oneself from death, like a god, the god, the watery pumpkin or god, all these gods, they separate from the vine, the creeper. If so, they notice this, and it happens so effortlessly. It just you don't even know that. Generally, how coconuts fall, they're done. So it's not. Let me not go out with a lot of struggle. Let me exit the body in the most effortless ways possible, as if a god is separating from its vine. Urvarukam is the name for the god. Bandhana is the bondage. From the bondage of this body and mind, may I be liberated. Mukshiya. May I find moksha. Like Urvarukam, like a god. Yeah. Trayambakam. So Trayambakam yajamahi. I worship. Yajamahi, there is puja. For Yajamahi, there is only one English translation word, worship. But I do my sadhana. I worship the three-eyed one, Trayambaka. Why in this particular mantra, this form of Shiva is being worshipped as the three-eyed one? The third eye is again very symbolic of the deeper state of perception as to what is the nature of life. And with that realization that with two eyes we see that which is physical, with the third we see that which is beyond physical. That is the symbolism there, and it is the Agnya Chakra.
Before moving ahead, do you want to just say the Mahamrityunjaya Mantra once?
Sure. Should I chant? I'll just say it out. I'll not chant it. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshiya Mamritat. So these form nice Sanskrit sentences. Not every mantra does like this, but both Gayatri Mantra and Mahamrityunjaya Mantra form nice subject-object-verb sentences. You want me to break it word by word? That is my comfort zone. I'll become like
Didn't
a
you
teacher.
just break it word by word?
I just picked up some words here and there, like the key verbs.
Sure, go for
which is Trayambakam Yajamahe. I worship the three-eyed one. Sugandhim, the one who is fragrant. Pushtivardhanam, the one who vardhana, the one who enhances vigor and strength. Pushti comes from Purnata, and it's like fullness, vitality, vigor. Pushtivardhanam. Why do I worship him? Urvarukamiva bandhanat mrityoho mukshiya mamritat. So from like a god separates from its creeper, like that effortlessly release me from this bondage of death. Mrityoho, from this mrityu, liberate me. So it is not towards staying eternally youthful or immortal. It is, as long as I'm in the body, he is make me fragrant, make me. So Shivam Bhutva Shivam Japet. There is this word, which is you don't worship Shiva just like that. You become Shiva yourself to worship Shiva. So whatever qualities, attributes you are ascribing to your deity of worship, the objective is for you yourself to inculcate such attributes. So Sugandh, he is fragrant, he is Shuchi, he is pure. And Pushtivardhana, he is the one who's full of vitality and vigor. As long as you're alive, you live well, and when you die with that effortless passage.
What effect does the mantra have on your existence before your death? So if you start saying it every day of your life, or if you actually start doing that whole 108 times,
you live well, live a full-fledged life. They say akala mrityu, which is untimely death through breaking the body and some kind of a disaster, will not happen to you. And when the self exits the body, it happens effortlessly. It doesn't. Generally, it happens with a lot of
pain,
shock, lot of trauma is what they say. Yatana. Yatana is not exactly pain, but there are a lot of Bhairavi Yatana, they call it. And there is this, I don't know how far the modern science has come to understanding it, but at the moment of passage, they say the entire life flashes for a fraction of a second, and one goes through all the traumas that one has gone and then quits the body, then leaves.
You have to live through your breakups again?
Is that the toughest? Really?
I'm kidding, man.
If your breakups are the hardest challenges, then
Then it's been a good life.
Or it's been a boring life. You have not ventured into the hard pursuits of life. I know it's not the hardest. Have you had... No, if you venture into something which is new, I hope it is not. But, you find pain in so many ways, man. Life has its ways.
You live through all those pains again at the
you
moment of death.
go through all that.
Okay.
Yeah, they say, but this mantra will avoid that Bhairavi Yatana and makes it.
You know, if someone wants to understand the nature of death, they should look into this book called the Garud Puran. It's come up so much
has
on the
come
show.
up. Yes.
And now you're kind of giving me a solution to the things mentioned in the Garud Puran. Because even the Garud Puran talks about the suffering at the moment of death.
It's a huge text. It's almost 110, 20 chapters. It's a fascinating text. Maybe I should cover it sometime.
Yeah.
On the verses of it. It covers everything from economics to daily conduct to sexual activity, how to householders' duties, to the descriptions of heaven and hell, what kind of punishments await those who commit these kinds of sins.
There's stuff like you have to float through a river of boiling oil. The animals will eat you and give you the same pain that you have given to other animals by eating meat. There's things like that written. Because we've had a few people talk about it on the show. But the question here is again about Mahamrityunjaya Mantra. So what I have understood is that it's saving you from the suffering that you will encounter during the moment of death, and at the same time protect you from an untimely death.
Yes.
At the same time, it'll make you live to the maximum potential that you contain as a human being.
Brilliant summing it up.
What does that mean? Live and fulfill your maximum potential materially, happiness wise?
Yeah, living well, like healthy. What is living well? Like pleasant. For this, I'll borrow heavily from Sadhgurus because I vibe fully with it. What are the faculties that we're born with? We have our body, very obvious. So no disease-free body, lovely. Like vibrant, healthy body, fabulous. Done. Another faculty is our mind, keen, sharp intellect, and an ability to dissect through everything to see clearly what there is to see, and keeping it pleasant, free from sorrow, all those negative thought patterns and self-inflicted suffering. Lovely, great. Mind is happy. You have your emotions there, which is connected to the mind. Similar thing. Emotion just takes some time to adjust, but they are happy. They are loving, compassionate, great. And the life energy that is breathing, how alive you are, how vibrant your body is, and is it allowing you to wake up early in the morning fresh, full of life, or it's pulling you back in every pursuit that you are on.
So Uday sir,
Arey.
I think we've given the audiences a really thick, heavy piece by this point. Every month we intend on always releasing a podcast related to Hinduism, to spirituality in some form. And I think this is the podcast of the month for us. Too much to learn, man. Is there anything you wish to add to today's conversation? Because we will do a second piece after this, specifically about celibacy and all the stuff we were talking about outside.
Sure.
But for this conversation about Sanskrit, how do you want to close this chapter?
Lovely that you express your interest in picking up Sanskrit and the study of Sanskrit at some stage of your life. But like I said, most of it. Like we don't need to start from scratch. Most of the people who have grown up learning some Indian language, and the amount of the vast ocean of knowledge there is to explore is immense, and it's so relishable. It is not that all of this is something that you have to either carry in your head as some kind of informational burden, or or something which is lost in time. All of this is accessible. All these texts from, like I said again, there's so many. Please bring on more experts on your show, and bring more focus on the actual content, because I feel there is a lot of fluff on the internet. People want to talk about Sanskrit कि अरे coding के लिए उपयुक्त है, या it's the best language, it's the dev bhasha, it's dharohar वगैरह वगैरह. It's but exactly what it is which is so valuable. What are those lines? What do these rituals mean? What are those shlokas that go and describe all of these concepts in such depth across all fields of study? The actual content of it, that content of Sanskrit in Sanskrit, is what that I would like to see more on the internet. I am working towards it. Definitely, it's not happening at the pace that I would love like it to, because the amount of, like I said, the amount of content across varied fields is insane. across music, dance, everything, and across all these languages. I am again on this journey to explore Sanskrit's presence in all parts of what was Bharat, to see how people, kings, saints, composers, uh, all sorts of geniuses in every region were, you know, experts in their own individual, in their own regional languages, but also produced magnificent works of Sanskrit, from Adi Shankaracharya in Kerala to Madhvacharya of Karnataka to Swaminarayan and Karnad, Desi Rishi Karnad of Gujarat, to Abhinava Gupta in Kashmir. So in Bengal, Odisha, Jayadeva is there in Odisha. So there are so many such marvelous pieces of composition which delve into such diverse topics. I would like to see more of it on the internet with your team. I would love for you to produce more content on it. I'm always behind the young up and coming content creators in this field to try and help them to explore these and present this to an audience. So with your power of the internet, I wish you cover more of it in its authentic format.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for this opportunity, for presenting it to some extent on your show. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother. One thing I will say is that we've met lots of storytellers, but very few researchers who talk about Hinduism. You're one of the researchers. And I feel the researchers are the actual diamonds. The storytellers have a place, have a role, have a very mainstream angle on things. But the researchers actually fuel the storytellers and all the actual seekers. So that's the only thing I'll say to the audience, that please subscribe to Udaya channel.
Guys, like, share, and subscribe. Which camera?
There's a lot of growth
Thank you so much. Yeah.
to be got through Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a key that unlocks knowledge. And here you have a master key sitting with us. So thanks, brother. And see you again on the show very soon.
Would love to.
Thank you. That was the episode for today. Post this, we did one more episode centered around celibacy and the yogic way. That was also a stellar episode, and that's the nature of this man's mind. He's extremely well read, but more importantly, he's experienced about all the things that he has an opinion on. Trust me, we've just scratched the surface when it comes to his knowledge. I will direct you to his YouTube channel, the Sanskrit channel, if you've watched the podcast till this point. Remember, our meditation app, Level Supermind, is now live on the App Store and the Play Store. So make sure you go check it out. The link given down below will give you a week-long free trial for you to begin your own meditation and yoga journey. For more episodes just like this, make sure you follow TRS on Spotify. Every episode's available on Spotify 48 hours before it's available anywhere else in the world. TRS will be back with that knowledge punch once again very, very soon. Thanks for listening in.